and welcome to this video tutorial in Pro Tools. In this video we're going to take a look at using various different selection tools to chop up the drums and make them in time. Now there's various other different methods to this. We can use Beat Detective, we can use Elastic Audio, but we'll look at those in other videos. Now in a video that hopefully you've seen, you can create your own tempo map from one of the instruments, and then what you're able to do is have a grid for that, and you can make everything else in time. So what I want to do is I want to create, get my drums in time, because if I zoom in now, we can see, hopefully you can see that this isn't in time, our snare hit. So we've got snare and kick on these two ones. Now you can't just change it on the kick and the snare, because if you did that, all the bleeding of the kick and snare into the other drums would all be out of time, and that sounds silly. So you first of all need to create yourself a group with all the drums in it. So then when the cursor's selected on it, it'll just be for the drums when we're chopping things up. Okay, so we're going to use various different functions, and then I'll show you another method as well. It kind of depends what you like using when you get used to it. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is make sure you tab to transients button is on, and that you've created a drum group, and then just click anywhere before the beginning of the first note. So our snare is the first proper hit, so we just hit the tab key and that goes to the first transient, and then we can separate it, Command E, and then tab to the next transient. And you may need to tab a little bit because this will be some spill of other sort of tones of the drum sort of wobbling, or it may be some hi-hat hits or something. So go to the actual next one. So we've gone to this main kick one, and we could do Command E again. And then if we switch into grid mode, at the top we can then grab this and we can shift it so it goes straight away to the grid. And then make sure you're in Smart Tool Focus. You will get used to using this tool. You can then move to the end and just, sorry, I should have said you need to change it into slip mode. Dragged it out, and then if you move to the bottom it turns into a crossfade tool, and you could just do a crossfade there. So if it wasn't crossing exactly, then you can make that happen. So then let's go back into our grid mode. We'll just tab to the next one, and this one's already separated, but I want to show you a different method. I find that if you keep having to go all the time and then reselect it, that's annoying. If you hold down the Shift key whilst you tab, that will select it at the same time, which is very useful. And then Command D separates it, and then we're in our grid mode because I changed it already, and change into slip mode, click and drag it out, and then add that crossfade. So then you can keep continuing on doing the same sort of feature. Stick it back into grid mode, so we can tab to that next transient. Let me just zoom in so you can see it a bit. So we tab to the next one, Shift, Tab, Command D, and then in grid mode, just grab it so it goes in, change it into slip mode, and drag it out. And then do your crossfade. Now, if like me you don't have a, well, my keyboard, all the F keys at the top, they're all changed to be different things on my computer. And if you're the same, then it can be annoying having to click up here all the time when you want to go to grid and slip mode. If not, if you've got the F keys, then you can quickly just change between them. But like I said, I can't demonstrate that. So what we're able to do is a different way of quantizing. So I'm just going to move this along this way. So we've got our next one, which is the snare hit that we've got. So let's just drag that out while we're in slip mode so we can see the beginning of it. Okay, and this time we're going to tab again, and we're going to leave it in slip mode. We're going to go to the next one. Let me just zoom out so we can see it. Shift and tab. Command D, and this time we're going to go to our quantize menu. So you can find that in event operations, and quantize at the top, or you use the shortcut, which is the Alt and 0 key, and that brings up this menu. Now it seems to default on Elastic Audio events, so I've had mine open already, so I've changed it, but just change this to audio clips. And then you want to change your quantize grid to whatever you feel appropriate. So it may be that it's 16th notes, but my grid's set to 8th notes at the moment. So I'll just leave it on that one for now. If you haven't got these sort of highlighted, just flip between one or the other. It seems to be a little bit buggy that it doesn't always switch it on first time. Within this window you are allowed to randomize it a bit, so we could add a little bit of randomization so it's not exactly on the bar every time. But for now I'm going to switch that off, and that's something for you to play with later. So now I'm just going to zoom a bit so you can see this. So this is where our bar is and this is our selection. If I just hit apply now, that has just moved that right to the beginning, which is quite nice. So I'll just demonstrate again. I hit apply, it shifts that to the beginning, and then you can close it. Again, once you continue doing this, you don't need to close the window every time, but you seem to on the first ones. So then we can just click that out, we can do our crossfade, and away we go. We can start on the next one. So we can, if you're not sure it's the right thing, obviously zoom in a bit. I'm just going to make sure I'm tabbing to the right selection. So we tab to there, Command E to select that, Shift tab and then Command E, and then Alt 0 and just hit return. You don't need to hit the apply button, and that automatically jumps it there. We can then do our little section. We can drag out this one, make sure it's at the beginning, so this is a kick hit this time. So we do that, Shift and tab, Command E, Alt 0, hit enter, and it jumps to the right place. And then we can continue this. Now you may find that some of the hits are pretty much spot on, and some might be terrible out, but if you feel that that's it and you're happy with the next ones, then you can just drag the region and do that final fade. As we can see, that one's not perfect, but that'll do. Okay, so that's just a nice little quick way of being able to move things around. Now sometimes you'll find that even though you've used this method, it doesn't sound quite right, and it can be hard then to sort of put it in the right position. So what you can do is you can use nudging. So say for example, let's just zoom in on this one. Say that this one wasn't quite where I wanted it. What you have to do is switch this A to Z button on. So it defaults as being greyed out, and we want to switch it on. And then you need to set a nudge value. I tend to use 10 milliseconds. That's just a fairly standard setting of mine, but it could be smaller or bigger, or you could have it on you could have it on bars and beats instead. But it just seems to work nicely for me, that one. And then if you have a numeric keypad, you can use the plus and minus to nudge, but again, I don't have one. So when you're in the A to Z focus here, the keyboard focus, if you just press the comma and the full stop, you're really pressing the little triangle arrows, but that's the one that it'll come up with on my screen. So when I nudge that way, you can see it's moving, and I can nudge the other way. And have a listen to it. When you decide, oh, that's where I exactly want it to be, then you can stop, you can drag these out and put your crossfade back on. Okay, so that's just so that you can use that to get it a little bit more in time if it just feels it's out. And it may be that, say this whole section, you just want to nudge this whole section instead, and you can do that quite easily. Let me just undo all of that. Remember, you only have 32 levels of undo, so make sure you do save this every now and again. Okay, so that was, like I said, one method of being able to get the drums in time. There are other methods as well, which we'll look at in future videos. But just to check finally that this is all in time, it's good to switch your metronome on. And to hear a click track, I'll just put it in here. So click on kick just so you can see it, and then you go to track and create click track, and this automatically creates a little click track here that we're able to hear. And if I just go to the transport window, you can view this. So what I'm wanting is this metronome here. If you go into the top panel and switch on MIDI controls, then it will show them. It does actually just fit on there on my screen, but if it doesn't for you, then obviously then you can use this one. But we switch on our metronome here, and then we'd be able to hear it. So we can see how terrible these are from me not once pressing play, and see whether this is in time.
Someone is talking. I think it's you.
Okay, so that one that I was playing about with isn't quite in time on that bit, but it's a nice quick way of being able to do it. You can as well, if you go over to the mix window, let's just switch this down, it creates a plugin, and you can change the click volume, and you can select it to follow the meter, which obviously is what we're doing as well, and switch it on and off, etc. And you can say whether you want them, the click 2 to be on different notes and all that sort of thing. So it's quite nice little meter. And of course you can bring the volume down. I know it was quite loud there in the mix. So that's just your click track. I'll just mute it now. But to switch it on and off, you just click the follow meter. Oh yeah, if you double click on it, like I just did, then you can have it so the click doesn't play during play. So you need to make sure it's on. If you don't hear anything, that's what you need to do. And you can also have a count off. So when you're recording something, you can have a 2-bar count in as well. Okay, so that's one way of editing. I will show you in videos in the future how you can use Beat Detective and Elastic Audio as well. But have a go at doing that. You do find once you get a little quicker with it that you can really nicely get it in time, and it won't take too long to do that section. And like I said, some parts of it will be good enough in time. It's just some of it that you'd be nudging. Okay, until next time.